Thanks, Roseanne. And hello, everyone. As Roseanne said, I'm Hannah, and I am going to kick us off, but we're going to hop around between all three of us today and to share a little bit about the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Workforce Collaborative, as well as the development of this curriculum and where we are seeing really opportunities to implement the curriculum on the ground in partnership with folks, many who are in this room and others that we'll mention. I'm going to just flip through these slides. So to start off, just for those who maybe have not heard us present before, I'm going to share a little bit about the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Workforce Collaborative, which launched back in 2020. And it really launched out of conversations that were had in places like this, where there was like a real need to build a workforce for all the infrastructure that was going into the ground throughout the Puget Sound, recognizing that there really was an insufficient number of people who were trained in GSI to maintain and install these features. And so we launched to really focus on addressing the challenges related to developing sustainable, equitable, and inclusive career pathways within the GSI field. And since the start of the collaborative, the intention has really been to cultivate really a cross-sector and regional space that allows for discussion from multiple perspectives and allows us to really leverage the strengths of the many different sectors that are involved in green stormwater infrastructure. And so today our collaborative includes representatives from education institutions, businesses, nonprofits, government agencies, and conservation districts. And so one of the first efforts we undertook as a collaborative throughout 2020 and 2021 was to really look at what are the challenges and opportunities in the field so that we could just begin to develop projects and opportunities together. So the three challenges that really emerged that we've really focused on throughout the last 4 years is inequitable and unreliable career opportunities, funding instability, recognizing that there's a lot of competition for funding and projects and trained workers among organizations, jurisdictions, and others across the region, and then a real lack of consistent cross-sector collaboration. And so each of the projects that we've undertook together has really addressed one or more of those challenges. One of the things we've done together is develop a charter, which is where you can see this mission and purpose came out of, and it helped us really hone in on our shared structure, our shared definitions of the work we're doing together, and really ensured that we're centering on equity and making sure that continues to be a core part of the way we work together. We also have worked at various times and looking at how workforce development related to GSI can show up in our state level policy discussions and how that can sort of be represented at a higher scale in our state. We're also currently working on a training pilot in Pierce County that builds on a lot of the shared learnings from other training efforts throughout the state, throughout the region, such as Dirt Corps and Earth Corps and others. And it's really connected to the work that's on the ground in Tacoma, in and around Tacoma. We're also right now collaborating with community advocates to really ensure community voices and those in the field and working on the ground are continuing to inform our work, and we're calling it something called a community accountability structure, and working with folks to really, how do we sort of make sure that it continues to be a part and a central part of the work that we do. And finally, we commissioned a report from the Seattle Jobs Initiative that looks at career pathways related to GSI. And that report is really what launched the work that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to turn it over to Cari.
All right. Hello, I am short. Let's see. And we need to go. Oh. Okay. So first of all, I just want to give a huge shout out to Hannah for since 2020, and remember the pandemic, boo, and how horrible it was. But we launched this collaborative in the midst of a pandemic, and it was all virtual. The group continues to meet virtually. And just her steady hand in organizing and holding this virtual space is essential, right, for this kind of group to come together and do this work. And so the group currently meets every 2 months. We have subcommittees that meet in between. And without her leadership and the rest of us showing up, none of this would have happened. So just want to give you. So as part of our annual work plan, the GSI Workforce Collaborative organizes several subcommittees. And through the GSI Workforce Mapping Subcommittee, which was looking at mapping workforce jobs around the region, we held a workshop in March 2023 at the Mini Mart City Park in Georgetown, and attendees, who included a really diverse cross-section of perspectives who wanted to put ideas into action, including how to increase exposure to GSI training and streamline pathways to advancement in the green infrastructure field. So this group basically identified a strategy to build a regional curriculum to support job exposure and a foundation for advancement. And that was, to me, a really important day, because finally we could do something out in the real world. The pandemic was over. We could work together, and this was something tangible and real that this group of really smart people could actually work on together. So, and we decided on that day to move forward with this recommendation to create this collaborative GSI curriculum to support all these things that we've just been talking about. And for those of us who in our past or currently you are training people to do something, if you've been trained in that way, and people are focused on doing the work out in the field, and you're training people and you're kind of doing it on the fly off the top of your head, you might get to the end of the school day or the work week and you can't actually remember what you did and you didn't actually write it down. And I think that's where a lot of us were coming from as far as the knowledge. People knew in their minds or their hands how to do some of this green infrastructure work, how to teach it, but it had never been written down in a comprehensive way. And so that is what really where some of this came from, is pulling together as a group to go back and recreate the coursework that we've all been part of in some way or another. And this process included bringing all these thought partners together to weave the best practices into this GSI curriculum. And we don't have a picture of what that looked like, but that's like a representative of what the event was at the Mini Mart. That's our sketch of it. So building a regional GSI. So this came out of this shared work in 2023. So the goal was to develop an entry-level regional curriculum to meet the employer and job seeker needs, and explore existing entry-level GSI training programs, with success with job placements, employer partners. And then we wanted to create a pilot with training programs in King County and Pierce County, and expand it even further when we have more capacity. So the curriculum would be able to be adapted for place-based and subject-specific training opportunities. It would focus at the 101 level, so entry level, with the opportunity to expand to 201 or more kind of refined or specific knowledge in the future, and aim to be the grounding for potentially this regional green infrastructure training certification. So if someone took a course from, let's say, Dirt Corps and was part of this curriculum, that then they could go to Pierce County and someone would recognize this curriculum and this certification across our region. So to do this, to shared curriculum and paired certification, we definitely wanted to evaluate, the research project to contact local training program graduates. Oh, sorry, that's the next step. Sorry, we have other goals we'll talk about later for future, how we're gonna go beyond this. So now I'm gonna talk about the partners. So thanks especially to the subcommittee that helped put this curriculum together, and everyone who committed so much time to going through looking at existing curriculum pieces and how to weave that into something cohesive. Gianna will be talking about that on the next slides. But using this subcommittee, we developed a scope of work and to subcontract with someone with curriculum development skills, which is what Gianna is going to do or did with us. The subcommittee drove the process and planned how this work was going to happen. And we started, which was really important, we started with creating a list of learning outcomes that everyone in our subcommittee and the wider GSI Workforce Collaborative could agree on to be universally applicable, to be able to be successful at this kind of work, and emphasize the focus on equitable access, considering a diversity of learning styles and how much education people have had in their day-to-day lives and how they could adapt this. So, and then out of this, we hired Gianna to start with this. And so currently the Nature Conservancy in Washington is acting as the primary convener of this collaborative with facilitation and strategic support from Sean Watts Consulting and support from me with my consulting firm, Urban Systems Design. Gianna led the curriculum development, and all of us worked on reviewing and adapting or, evaluating or putting the final pieces together. And so we just want to give a shout out to people we know who are in the room and others who aren't here who are part of this, part of developing this curriculum. So Clover Park Technical College, Dirt Corps, Earth Corps, Pacific Education Institute, Pierce Conservation District, King County Wastewater Treatment Division, Washington State Department of Transportation, and Washington State University Stormwater Center. Amelia's here from King County. Karen Galt from Parks is here. So just thank you to everybody. And yeah. And now I'll have Gianna come up and tell you how we did it.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay. Nice to see you all here today. I'm excited to share the curriculum we worked on together. And I'm really going to talk about my role, which took place from last mid-July to November. So 4 months of work, and there were kind of 4 phases of work that I worked on. I come from a teaching background in high school and college, and I love the project of building curriculum. And this was a particularly interesting project of trying to build a curriculum that could work in an imagined ideal situation of 8 weeks, but could be expanded and scaled up or down depending on what agency or organization would use it. So as Cari said, I started with a work plan and reading all of the work that the subcommittee had already done. And that was kind of individual work. And then I moved into this phase of convening workshops and collaborating with all of these different organizations to build out from the draft outcomes an actual curriculum that could be used, that somebody could pick up and take into their different training situations. And then we work together to review and align the curriculum. And that brings us to the pilot stage, which will be participatory, that this curriculum will grow and develop. So the first stage was looking at all of the work that had already been done. I received a whole bunch of files in Google Drive that were organized by topic, as well as a Jamboard. I'm just going to tell you right now, a lot of the slides are going to show documents. These next few slides, they have a lot of writing on them. You don't need to read them, but I'm just going to explain what they are. So from looking at these resources that I had, I identified the priorities that would guide this project. Collaborative, meaning we'd work together to build it. Participatory, meaning that it would change as different trainers used it and they could add to it beyond this first phase. Introductory level and entry level, which meant we were imagining ideally an 8-week curriculum that would be for 18 to 25-year-olds or people entering the field, making career transitions, that it would be ideally a 2-session-a-week kind of curriculum, one in the classroom and one in the field, and that it would be something that anybody could join, no matter what their educational background or facility with GSI work was. That it could be used regionally throughout Puget Sound, Western Washington area, that it could change so that you didn't have to use it in that 8-week format, and that it would become one version of many. So building a curriculum without teaching it at the same time was a new experience for me as a classroom teacher. You always imagine something ideal and then you try it out and then you change it the next day because it did or did not work, and then you plan the next thing. This was planning an 8-week curriculum, and so into that project without it being field tested at the same time, I tried to build in spaces for people to change and do that revision later when it does get field tested. And that finally, it would emphasize environmental justice, and that those conversations and topics would have to change as environmental justice topics change. So there would be places for people to bring in current events or new research as they needed to in this curriculum. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit. We had 3 workshops, and that's going to kind of guide this next part that I talk through. Workshop number 1 was getting to know the people on the subcommittee and their ideal imagined audiences for this, and thinking through the outcomes. So I received a set of outcomes that were already drafted. And from the first conversation in our workshop, I took those set of outcomes and I revised them into and sequenced them into that 8-week structure. So the outcomes are the framework that everything else on the curriculum hangs off of. And they are meant to be kind of the guideposts that job seekers might be able to communicate to potential employers. This is what I've studied, this is what I've learned, and that employers can quickly kind of recognize, okay, this is what this person might be coming in with. So that's kind of the structure. The outcomes include the weeks that they might be addressed if you had the full 8 weeks, although that could be expanded out or collapsed as needed. A quick version and then a longer version. And outcomes, in my experience, are kind of boring language. They're meant to be very accessible. And so you'll notice if you read through them that they might even seem repetitive, like using the same language of water quality and water quantity. That's to create this tight connection between each of them. And then from that first session, where we were focused on audience and genre, we worked on elaborating those out into something that's more usable and workable. So for each outcome, this is a version of the elaborated curriculum map that was built out. This is for the GSI maintenance outcome number 4. And it includes at the top the same language of the outcome, but then some examples of what that might actually look like. So discussing what maintenance looks like for rain gardens and cisterns, or going to a failed GSI site and talking about what didn't work and what would have needed to be in place, or how you would revise or try to amend that struggling GSI site. And then within that, there are 3 columns, and I use this curriculum structure because I think it's accessible. The first column, the one closest to me, the no column, is things you could look up or things you could find in a resource. Somebody could explain them to you really easily. The things in the middle column, the understand column, are bigger conversations or enduring understandings that you might need to they don't have an easy answer. You have to kind of grapple with them. You might find that there's a lot of different ways to respond to those questions, and they're bigger, flexible knowledge that you want the student or the trainee to take with them. And then the final column, the one furthest from me, is the do column. That's the actual projects and skills that you might do in the field, and that you might design learning experiences around for students or trainees to get hands-on experience with. And so this curriculum map is kind of the biggest level. It could be used as a checklist if you wanted to create all your own materials. And we workshopped that in the second workshop. We went through and had a chance to look at feedback and change the curriculum map before we proceeded on to the next step, which the final workshop was focused on looking at the more granular level of the curriculum, including right now the curriculum lives as a Google Drive, and it might change its format later, but the drive, you'll notice, is organized both weekly and then with the names of the outcomes. So in each of these folders exists resources, lesson plans, lots of the different things that had already been organized by the subcommittee as being relevant teaching materials for their previous trainings into a curriculum that works in an 8-week structure. And then in addition to those kind of specific outcome level files, there are big framing files that help students understand what they're learning and help the trainers develop the right resources to teach that. So some of those examples are a course calendar. This is just an example of weeks 3 and 4, the maintenance weeks. So what students would need to do in advance of the week, what they'd plan to learn in the classroom setting, what they'd plan to focus on in a fieldwork setting, and if there was any assessment or follow-up that they would need to do after the session. So that's the outward facing element. The kind of internal facing element for trainers is a weekly curriculum guide that elaborates on each of those things that a student might do. And it gives more detail, including things that you'd need to complete in advance, like setting up any field site visits, guest speakers, making copies, getting together materials, the kind of nuts and bolts of doing a training, which can be a lot of work, but kind of can be really creative too. And then if you wanted to get even more specific and you had that 8-week timeline, you could use these model agendas. And this is the place where the participation of those who might pilot this would be really useful, because these are imagined ideally. So they give you kind of a set of timelines and activities that layer out an example of a 2.5 to 3 hour session in the classroom, and then a 4 to 6 hour fieldwork session. And the notes column, if this was a live document, I could click on it. They list different sites that you could go to. You're still going to have to do the work to make the partnership with those sites and find the guest speakers or internally bring in the speakers. But the idea is that if you had that 8 weeks, that you have a full slate of resources. So the final thing I want to note here is that when we were talking, there were all these different imaginations. Sometimes it was about an audience of youth that would take a full term in addition to their classroom work, or it would be a classroom setting for a semester. Sometimes it was an 8-week curriculum. Sometimes it was a curriculum for a specialized population. I think you're going to speak to Washout's program that was imagined for people who are incarcerated, maybe learning skills for reentering the workforce. So the idea here is that these different levels of documents and how they're organized can be used in the way that will serve different agencies. So you can use the checklist style curriculum map. You can use the agendas if you'd like, or you can use the last example as an example of a lesson plan that might be a piece of that bigger curriculum. It was a really fun project to work on, and it was a really interesting way to kind of think about what do students need to learn and in what level do they need to learn it, and then what do trainers need to be thinking about in advance. And of course, that participation in that iteration will depend on how it's piloted and how it's changed in the future. So the curriculum documents are meant to change as they are used. I think that's it for me. So I'll turn it back over to Cari. Thank you.
Yeah, so now we get to be in the fun phase of implementation and some more cool imagined graphics of what it's going to look like to implement this curriculum out in the field. So yeah, we are working with basically testing the curriculum. Is this method going to work? Who is going to use this, and is it going to work for their group? And we're testing it across Puget Sound. So right now, Seattle Conservation Corps, based in Seattle, mostly works with the homeless or formerly homeless unhoused population, and is a partnership between Seattle Public Utilities. And we're working on a partnership with Seattle Public Utilities and Seattle Jobs Initiative, Washington Department of Transportation, Dirt Corps, Earth Corps, Clover Park Technical College, and a partnership efforts within the city of Tacoma. Curriculum itself is meant to serve as a consistent foundation that can be adapted to these different pilot sites based on their audience and type of training and overall goals. And as we've talked about, some people may be using it for 8 weeks or a quarter or a year. In some cases, they just want to break it down into really small bites, and maybe each morning the crew meets after their safety meeting. They're going to dig a little lesson, and then they're going to go out and do the work for the day. And so right now we're taking the time to meet with all these different pilot sites to learn more about their goals, as well as how we can support their implementation. And one of our goals right now is to conduct a needs assessment with the pilots to find out, better understand how we can support both the trainers who will be teaching, or if there's needed subject matter experts who are needed, and also the needs of the population that they'll be teaching. And so based on this input and feedback, we can adapt the curriculum and improve it. So hopefully we'll be here next year and tell you some really exciting stories of how it worked. So our first case study, we just want to give a shout out, my beloved Dirt Corps crew. We're really excited. Dirt Corps, in a sense, started a lot of this because a lot of the curriculum pieces came from the work that Andrew, Roseanne, and others have done. And in our work, we basically just pulled it all together and made it unified and wrote it down in some cases to take work that Roseanne and Andrew teach off the top of their head every day and put it on paper. And so you can learn more about the Dirt Corps program at dirtcorps.com. And Roseanne is here too. You've obviously talked to her about it. And Roseanne and some of the other folks from Dirt Corps will be helping us with that needs assessment phase to go out and meet with some of the people, some of the pilot sites to learn more about their needs. So now turn it over to Hannah to talk about one of our other pilot sites.
Thanks. So I'm going to be speaking on behalf of a bunch of people. And first one is information provided by Bob. Bob can wave in the back. And this is a program that he has helped design and develop. So the Seattle Opportunity Work Corps is a partnership between Seattle Jobs Initiative, Machinist Institute, and Seattle Public Utilities. So Bob has participated in the Workforce Collaborative as well as helped build, as well as the curriculum program. And this 12-month pilot program, the SOW Work Corps, or the Work Corps program, will hire and train 2 crews of 18 to 25-year-old BIPOC individuals to learn hands-on skills in GSI maintenance of SPU facilities while learning essential job skills and certifications, gaining exposure to utility-related operations in water, stormwater, and solid waste. So the curriculum will be incorporated into these 12 months. And this effort was funded by $1 million in congressional appropriations from Congresswoman Jayapal. And Bob wanted to make sure you all knew that right now they're hiring the first 6-month crew and a crew lead. So there's an opportunity to work with this program. The next place that's using components of this curriculum is Clover Park Technical College. So Derek Faust is a faculty member there and has participated in the Workforce Collaborative and helped shape components of the curriculum, contributed some of the curriculum from his classes to this effort. And he is he's using this final curriculum to really go deeper on components of green stormwater infrastructure. So he's incorporated materials from the weeks that Gianna highlighted, so weeks 1 and 2 into his hydrology course for associate students, and then weeks 3 and 5 for Bachelor of Applied Science. And he's also working to incorporate into his labs and field trips. The next pilot, which Gianna briefly mentioned, is the Washington State Department of Transportation. Tony Bush and Tatiana Dreisbach, who are not here today, but they have participated in the Workforce Collaborative and the curriculum effort as well. And they're now bringing this final curriculum back to their team and looking at how they can adapt it. So they're working to adapt it with the goal of training specialized GSI maintenance teams at WashDOT. And they're working in partnership with Sustainability in Prisons program and the Department of Corrections to offer this training to incarcerated individuals that are interested in green career pathways post-incarceration. And then it will be added to the existing WashDOT Maintenance Academy training to create a holistic curriculum for a more well-rounded teams. And I'm particularly excited about this opportunity, partially because this is really an opportunity to look at how it applies across a couple different regions, and not just in one. It is with one agency, but across many different areas in our region. The final pilot that we'll talk about is the work that's underway and is not yet launched, which is the Tacoma Green Stormwater Infrastructure Workforce Training Pilot. A subcommittee from the collaborative that includes the City of Tacoma, Pierce Conservation District, Clover Park Technical College, Workforce Central, and TNC has been working to shape a potential place-based training program. And this project emerged a couple years ago, really due to recognition that there's a lack of training opportunities that were accessible to those living in Tacoma, and that even small scale GSI projects were struggling to find workforce to support installation and maintenance, even though there was sort of demand from the private and public side. So last year, the City of Tacoma was able to secure funding in their budget to support this pilot. And the intention is for this entry-level training to focus on a combination of classroom learning and hands-on experience, adapting this regional GSI curriculum for the needs of the City of Tacoma. So the subcommittee is planning to co-deliver this training with a local organization that has traditionally focused on other subjects, so not typically environmental or green stormwater infrastructure, but they really excel at delivering training and job readiness for youth of color in Pierce County. And so their focus will be recruiting, enrolling, and supporting the trainees. And then the subcommittee, and in particular, the Nature Conservancy, will be responsible for securing the subject matter experts, the trainers, to deliver the training, and connecting the trainees to local projects for more hands-on experience. So we're hoping to launch this pilot soon, and it will be an exciting opportunity to test out the curriculum in that city. So my last slide. So we hope these pilots provide a glimpse into the many ways that the curriculum can be applied. And I think one thing that I was realizing as we were putting together the different pilots is they're all really a partnership effort. They're really work focused on partnering between agencies and nonprofits and education professionals. And it's really important that those collaborations work together to deliver this training and support trainees. So one question that we really centered during the development of this curriculum and really in the collaborative as a whole is what type of job is this training leading to? And so the report that helped launch this curriculum really illustrated a number of different careers. And so we wanted to make it a little bit more tangible. And so we did an initial 5 profiles of different people that work in the GSI field in some capacity. And those stories were just posted this week on City Habitats. And just look at the different ways people are applying their GSI training or their skills into different career paths. And so and we're hoping to do more of those just to continue to sort of bring visibility to the different types of careers that are possible when you have some GSI skills. Then I'm going to turn it back over to Cari.
Yeah, so we're going into the end. We have just a few minutes left. But for those of you that are interested in this curriculum, so essentially we've created this curriculum together. We're offering it for free to entities to use under the assumption or hope that the pilots that are going to be using the curriculum will give us feedback. How did it work? What could we do differently? How did it work with your population? How was it for the trainers? That we build basically a dialogue or communication back and forth about using the curriculum. So you're able to access it at this website, although the table is blocking it. So cityhabitats.org/workforce/curriculum. And you're also welcome to reach out to us, to Hannah or I, to talk about it. If you have a group that you think would be a good fit, please connect with us about this. And then we just wanted to say other ideas that our GSI Workforce Collaborative, you are welcome to join us. We always want new people to join the bigger collaborative, which meets every 2 months. Some of the ideas we've talked about is to do a research project working with training program graduates who've maybe graduated this year, last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. How has their experience been finding work, keeping a job or moving up or finding advancement, things like that. Just evaluating both from a job seeker and employer's perspective, like what is going on out in the world right now with work and availability of work. So once you have this certification or once you know this work, how hard is it to find a job that you like? And eventually we would love to see this curriculum become standardized so that actually there's a certification available, like, OSHA, like a forklift operator, the TSC or something like that. So there would be a certification available for people that would be recognized across our region. So, yeah. Thank you. Here's how to find all this information, how to connect with us. Yeah. This includes a glimpse of what the collaborative worked on together, an opportunity to join the collaborative, and access to curriculum to check that out. We are about to have a hands-on activity.
Yeah, but we didn't have questions.
Oh, yes. Are there specific questions right now about what we just talked about before we make you do more work? Yeah. It might embarrass Gianna for me to say this, but she is job hunting. So if anyone has an amazing opening for her to come and work with you on anything, I would highly recommend talking to her. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah. Now I don't have to scream. The potential for this kind of workforce development to increase the diversity of perspectives in the pipeline of decision-making about the kinds of infrastructure that we're building out in our communities seems really, really powerful. I don't know if there's a question that I'm asking here. I'm just sort of excited about the potential for this initial entry-level job training to connect into more people being able to think about and plan sustainable infrastructure in their communities, and if there's any potential to start thinking about that at this very early stage, that seems like a huge hope that could come out of this. Thanks.
I don't know if that was a question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, yes, I totally agree with everything else. This is awesome and exciting to see, because I think like 6 years ago at the Green Infrastructure Summit, the need around workforce emerged from this group, and feel like you're coming back to us with the product, which is awesome. I think my question, it relates to how much public money, infrastructure money is out there right now to build GSI, and how your vision for how to connect this curriculum to the boatloads of cash that are hitting the streets to build stuff, and how we connect the dots on that.
I don't know. Tell us more. Yeah, we recognize, I think we're in a facilitator role. And so we really want to help make those, I think there needs to be funding that's brought to these groups that are doing the work, and to people that want to teach it and people who want to learn it. So I think tying workforce into some of these big infrastructure projects would be really smart.
Yes, and I think I think that one of the reasons the Washtenaw example is exciting is because there's a lot of, that is one of the sources of funding to invest in green suburban infrastructure. And so they're really thinking about the maintenance components. And I think one of the things we talk a lot about in our collaborative is how do we ensure employers, including agencies and others, are really thinking about and investing in the workforce components and thinking about what their needs are so that they can invest in the training and be part of developing this training for their needs. And so that is definitely, I mean, a lot of the public dollars will go to agencies. So how do we ensure that that's a component of those projects? Go ahead.
Municipalities that are issuing contracts require.
Yeah, so ongoing maintenance of projects that are being built by the municipalities. Yeah, I think I just talked to someone today from Kitsap County and just the struggle for finding workers to continue to take care of the projects that they already have. And they're often getting people maybe from parks or from construction companies who come in and don't know what green infrastructure is. And so even in a way, like all of us need this training on an ongoing basis because of the need to take care of the existing facilities that we have, and that there's always new people coming into workplaces who need that basic training. So this curriculum could be adapted in that way too, to basically help existing, functions of the, ongoing maintenance.
So I wanted to thank Hannah, Cari, and Gianna for the extraordinary effort of gathering everybody together, taking everything out of our heads and putting it together in usable, meaningful things so that we can start sharing our experience. I look out in the audience and I see former trainees who are now the boss. And it's really exciting to welcome people who started in green infrastructure 8, 9, 10 years ago, who are leading projects and building really incredible things. So we really encourage folks, bring those people in, give them the investment of training. There's a lot of really wonderful people out there who want to join. So thank you, you guys, for everything that you did. Really excited to use this.